And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That is right, it is time for Coffee Talk Live, and that is at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University, simultaneously broadcasting on both channels on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter, where you can find me at Coffee Talk Chat, or fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon, as we get ready to dive in and see what is going on in the world today, have a little bit of discussion, read through some of the comments in the live portion. And I do read through as many of the comments as I reasonably can, and I will go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in thus far. I see that Helter is here. Donner is here, reminding people thumbs up, like, and share. Please do if you don't mind. Stefan is here. Brian is here. Dragon and Joshua, as well as Scale Diesel. You know, I feel like, what's her name from Romper Room with the mirror? Magic Mirror, Magic Mirror. I see Michael. I see Brian. I see Eric. I see Judy. Anyways, for those of you who are old enough to remember that, I don't know how old most of you are, but that's going back when you're talking about Romper Room. I see that Sam Levi is here. Levi or Levy can be pronounced either way. Monkey is here. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks for everybody who was able to join us in the impromptu live last night, because I did a test live and to try to work out some of the bugs with this system. Everybody seeing and hearing me okay? I turned it down from 1080 to 720 to try to help with the transitions. So am I still coming in clearly? Do I need more light? How does it look? I've had a lot of issues with Restream recently, and I worked on trying to work that out. Unknown Nose is here, as well as John. And Scale Diesel says, looks great, sounds good also. So hopefully we'll see how it looks when I start doing the transitions, because it usually where Restream really messes me up is when I share a screen. And here's D-Lo jumping in. I share the screen so that I can show people what I'm reading when they do the reading portion of the news article, so that you can see what I'm doing. Basically, just as a courtesy for the people that are watching, I cite the news article and I tell you where you can find it, and show you the thing. And for some reason, that transition causes a hiccup. And we worked on that a little bit last night, trying to get some of the bugs out of it, because you're not getting a refund from Restream, apparently. So I can't cancel Restream that easily. And going and purchasing a whole nother platform is just out of the question right now. I can't throw down another 500 for that. And answering Chris's question, he says, did you see Bishop Mari Emanuel, Christian Church leader, had 16-year-old Muslim boy attempt to stab him to death in Australia? Yeah, we read that story on Monday. Because it was like only 2 days earlier, there was a big event at the mall in Sydney where 6 people were killed and 8 were critically wounded, including a 9-month-old baby, in a stabbing attack. And then I think he was 15, actually, unless something changed. And they didn't want to even tell you he was Muslim. And they needed 100 police officers to get him out of the church because the neighborhood was in an uproar. So there we go. And I see Fluke Man is here. Thanks for joining us today. We're gonna try this again. We're gonna try this again, as I pointed out before. And I know people had a couple of people had urged me to do a GoFundMe to try to recoup some of the expense of the annual streaming contract, because it's around $500. And I did set up the GoFundMe for it. Some people did help with that. Didn't meet its funding goal, but it is what it is. I appreciate it nevertheless that anyone even tried to help. And it's the GoFundMe is still open, but I don't know if it's going to get any more traffic. Anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll open the first article and we'll see what happens. And it's not that big of a deal if the screen goes blank for a second. For usually like a second, it turns orange or black in a transition, that's fine, as long as it doesn't create lag or interrupt the voice. If you can still hear me without an interruption. And I think that's really the main problem, is that you should at least be able to hear what I'm saying. So here we go. Share the page, as we tried a few. And like I said, I turned this down from 1080 to 720 if it makes it easier on the restream. I have tested also, of course, my connection, and at minimum you need 10 you need 30 megabytes per second for upload, and mine measures at an average of 42, and I am Ethernet. I'm not using Wi-Fi or anything like that. And yeah, unknown says orange. Yeah, if the screen changing for a second is okay, as long as it doesn't hang there, because there was a couple of times in the past it hung for like 20 seconds, and that's just way too much. I see Raccoon is here. Glad you could make it today, as we get ready to jump in with the first article. I'll read one more comment from Fluke. It says, like with an immigrant in Ireland, attack people with a knife and machete. Seems like their main targets are babies, children, and their mothers. Correct, because he did target primarily females. The 9-month-old baby ended up in surgery and intensive care, and the mother did die. And that seems to be it. And they don't need a gun to do it. These people are doing it with edged weapons. Anyway, Associated Press article. Something that people were suspicious about apparently been confirmed. Dubious claims about voting flyers at migrant camps show how the border is inflaming U.S. politics. So here we go. Humanitarian organization in northeastern Mexico said it did not create the flyers urging migrants to vote for President Biden that were filmed at its shelter in a now viral video that sparked a firestorm of conservative outrage this week. Accusations that Resource Center Matamoros was encouraging non-citizens to vote gained momentum after online posts displayed Spanish-language flyers instructing migrants to vote illegally for Biden once they arrived in the U.S. The flyers contained the logo of the organization, but it was not clear who created or posted them. Yeah, I'm sure. Videos showed them on the interior walls of portable toilets at the center's shelter near Mexico's border with Texas. Resource Center Matamoros, founder Gabby Zavala told the Associated Press the organization doesn't know who made the flyers, and said her group does not encourage immigrants to register to vote or cast ballots in the U.S. Not officially, anyways. The provenance of the flyers was still unknown Wednesday. They contained errors in spelling and grammar and appeared to include verbatim paragraphs from the organization's English language website that were translated into Spanish using online translation software. Despite the flyers' uncertain origin, unverified claims about them have proliferated online this week and came up during a congressional hearing Tuesday when House Republicans raised them in their questioning of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. I've been hearing about that for like a year. This is the first time anybody's been able to provide photo or video or make any kind of tangible claim about this, that it could be investigated. It had copies of stuff from their website, from the organization's website. It said it had misspellings, but it's misspelled on their website because they used AI to generate it, which doesn't surprise me at all. So Matamoros, on their stationery in their facilities, has these flyers posted and passed out, but doesn't know anything about it. Yeah, sure they don't. Doesn't know anything about it. I'm sure they don't know anything about the cell phones or the gift cards or the free airline tickets either. And wouldn't that be something? How could they possibly illegally vote and get away with it? Well, if you're in a place that claims that asking for ID to vote is discrimination against black people and they actually fall for that, maybe. Unknown Nose reminds us that babies can't fight back. Indeed. And Monkey says, and yet people said our democracy and election is the most secured back in 2020. Is it though? I doubt it. Donna wants voter ID and one-day voting. And Joshua says, can't believe they're still talking to Mayorkas. He only stonewalls and gives circuitous answers. Yeah, and it gets deeper than that because Mayorkas is in the news all over the place right now because of the impeachment, which I do have an article pulled up on that. But this further demonstrates how screwed up things are down there and how sabotaged the entire system is and how much you can't trust it because you don't know what to trust or who to believe. Do I believe that this organization that's operating there, Metamoros, knew nothing about this? I'm sure they knew something. Someone in their command structure knows about this. But if it's exposed, they'll just scapegoat somebody. They'll find one person to blame to distance themselves from liability. And then what? Where will you be from that? Nowhere. Nowhere. And I've been hearing that for a while, that something like that's been circulating, but there's been no actual evidence. Now there is. Now there is. And what's going to be done about it? What's going to be done about it? What's going to prevent it? And are we going to see a problem with illegal immigrants trying to vote? And if they do, what's going to be done about that? Are they going to be deported? Are they going to be arrested? Because if you did that, okay, closing it out, how'd that transition go? I saw orange for a second. Was the voice interrupted? Hopefully the voice was not interrupted. Like I said, if it turns orange for a second, I'm not worried about that too much. But if you were to vote twice, even by accident, you would be jailed for that. And I've seen it. I've seen articles on this, especially after Obama. There was one woman I remember in the Chicago area. She voted for Obama twice and they caught up with her, some old lady, and they gave her jail time. What's going to happen to these people? What's going to happen to these people? And then Scale Diesel says if voting actually means anything, and as the old adage goes, if voting worked, they wouldn't let you do it. You know, you all know how I feel about all of that. You all know how I feel about all of that. I don't trust the entire voting process anyways, but there you go. There you go. As I get to the next couple more comments here. Monkey says it's weird how people are okay with IDs for other things like buying cigarettes and alcohol, but to get an ID for voting, it's the end of the world with screaming and crying. Yeah, indeed. And it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And it shouldn't be. How hard is it? It's just to prove you're a citizen. It's not like they're copying your information. And then Fluke Man to say blacks don't have photo ID is racist, but it's okay when they make racial remarks. And of course they have photo ID, and that's the whole thing. That was Stacey Abrams. I've talked about Stacey Abrams many times. Both times that she ran for governor, she ran on that platform that black people were being kept away from the polls by trying to encourage voter identification because a lot of black people don't have ID. Since when? Is there anybody left in this country who's a citizen that is old enough to vote that doesn't have some form of identification? If you have no ID, how do you get a bank account? How do you get a job? How do you get welfare benefits if you need welfare benefits? How do you get your Social Security? How do you get your SSI? How do you get your medical? You can't do anything anymore without identification. You really can't. So yeah, I mean, even the poorest of the poorest of the poor, uh, they've got identification of some kind, or they couldn't get any benefits. You can only get benefits without ID if you came in here illegally, apparently. Monkey says, or for even driving as to add on to the things people use ID for. Yeah, everybody's got identification now. This isn't the 1920s. Nature Nerd says UAE created a super rainstorm and flooding when cloud seeding mixed with a natural rainstorm. Funny how the government is lecturing us about climate change while creating storms. Scale Diesel says to play the race card wherever and whenever they can for their little internet. And Monkey says it's not even like filling out the DOE questionnaire stuff, which is about 130 pages about your whole life going back 10 years and very detailed information. The DOE questionnaires is for obtaining clearance without the government's job for the DOE. And then there is WCM. It says weather controlling criminals and their pyrotechnics anyhow. Yeah, weather controlling criminals. And here's Boogers. Glad you could make it. We're going to jump to the streets of New York in a Fox News article. We read about this a few weeks ago, but we're following it up because New York cracked down that are overrunning AO's district, and sellers swarm the streets again selling goods. So because of, haven't even read the article yet, obviously, because of backlash and embarrassment from the media about the fact that the streets of New York are now flooded, it looks like a third world country out there. The sidewalks are covered with vendors with blankets and tarps and junk trying to sell to people as they walk by, prostitutes walking up and down the street, trash in the gutters. It's a disaster down there. It looks like, if you've ever been overseas, this is normal for where these people come from. And they brought it to New York. And it's illegal to sell out in the street in New York like that. You need to have a lot of vendor licensing to pull it off. You have to have a lot of vendor licensing, and they have none. And they were called on it. What the hell is this? Why do I have to pay hundreds and thousands for licenses and permits? And you got all these people lined up on the streets for blocks and blocks and blocks selling garbage. So the police came and swept them out, and they were back the next day. New York Police Department raided illegal open-air flea market operating in squad member Alexandra Cortez's district earlier this week, confiscating counterfeit goods and other items. So they took their stuff. The stuff was probably stolen anyway, so I guess it's not stealing if you steal something that's stolen. But some sellers have thumbed their noses at law enforcement, and they're back on the streets peddling merchandise. Excuse me. The sellers, many of whom are reported to be migrants, they're all illegal immigrants, don't pussyfoot around it, have been blocking sidewalks in Queens neighborhoods of Jackson Heights, Corona, and Elmhurst, shilling various items such as secondhand goods and clothing and food and anything else they could steal from the shelters, quite frankly. Local residents say the neighborhood looks like a third world country due to its shabby looking and unsanitary-like conditions. Prostitution is also rampant in the areas, with some nicknaming the neighborhood's main strip along Roosevelt Avenue as the Avenue of Sweethearts. All right. Video obtained by Fox News Digital last month shows an endless stream of vendors with piles of clothes stacked along the streets of Roosevelt Avenue and 91st Street, while others sell sneakers, pots and pans, toys, and photo frames. It's not all family-friendly merchandise because prostitutes are also known to frequent this area now. And we've seen this video. I'll leave the clip there for a second. We've seen some of these videos already. I've shown this. I didn't show that. though, because this is an ad that popped up here out of nowhere, and I hate that. You can't get away from it anymore. You can't get away from the advertisements. Just so damn clip. Here we go. Sorry about that. Catch up a couple comments real quick. Raccoon says they're stealing from stores like Home Depot and selling the stolen merchandise right there, and it's unreal. Nature Nerd says, isn't no vendor license for street vendors in other countries a more free market economy than ours? They pay. It's you don't be on someone's block out in a third world country and vend without paying the piper. It's a lot worse. It's a lot worse than our market system. It's kind of like what they were calling the van lords in California, people who buy derelict vehicles and line them up on a street and let people rent them to live in, homeless people. And if you don't pay them, they'll burn the vehicle down. And people have been killed out in California like this, and neighborhoods have been caught fire this way. It's not a great system. It's not a great system where they are either, I should say. Monkey says, how can New Yorkers be racist and xenophobic? Can you see how they're selling their stuff to live? Being sarcastic, by the way, he says. WCM says taxation is theft and extortion. And Brian says, to advertisers, no one cares. Let us read our articles and watch our videos. So, yeah, and that's the thing, too. They inject it in, and they must realize no one actually pays attention to it because the ads are everywhere. Who looks at it anymore? The commercials aren't even interesting. It's not like when we were young and the commercials had a story. They might even be interesting. They're so much so that now people seek out vintage commercials because there's a nostalgia factor there. Modern commercials are stupid or vulgar or offensive somehow or loud. They're really loud. I hate when an ad comes on and it's like 5 times as loud as the show you were watching to where you have to turn the sound down. It's insulting. I feel like I'm being assaulted. But yeah, no one pays attention. You get an ad on your phone, do you pay attention to it? You get an ad in your email, do you pay attention to it? No one pays attention anymore. We're completely desensitized to advertisement to where we don't even care. But here we go. It says, police also posted photos of dozens of large see-through trash bags filled with phone covers and other accessories from inside the local precinct. The New York Post reports that at least one vendor on the sidewalk has been selling power tools bearing tags from nearby Home Depots. Aha! Stolen merchandise. In a video shot on Tuesday by State Assembly candidate Ramses Frias, a former Democrat turned Republican, illegal vendors could be seen back on the streets flouting the law and pushing their goods. Well, if all you're going to do is round up their stuff and take it, they'll come back. They'll come back. Are you cracking down on the people doing it instead of just confiscating their merchandise? Again, where they come from, that's a common practice. They're probably wondering who they have to pay off to stay on the corner. That's normal where they come from. Oh, you won't pay me your protection money for keeping your stand up? I'll bust everything up or I'll take your stuff. And then you just come back out and do it again. And there's the picture of some confiscated merchandise that they're lining up here. I don't know what they're going to do with it. Probably sell it in public auction to the very people they took it from so they can take it back out and sell it again. Oh, man. It says, Frias says it proved that the raid was short-lived and warned that conditions will only get worse once the weather heats up. If there isn't a consistent police presence and or team set in place to educate these illegal vendors, then this will continue. Educate them how? What kind of education do you have in mind for these vendors? You're going to teach them how to be a citizen, get a proper vendor's license, and buy the stuff instead of steal it? What do you think you're going to educate them about? You're not educating these people. The only thing you can do is send them back where they came from. You want it to stop, you need to get rid of them. Brian says, amen. Joshua says, United States of desolation. Yeah, no kidding. And Nature Nerd says farmer market fees are really high, so a lot of vendors decide it's not worth it. And that's a shame, too, farmers markets, with the farmers markets. But this is what went on. They got pushed and pushed and pushed, and it got to the point of being embarrassing. And here's a picture of some prostitutes out in front of the vitamin shop here. Pushed and pushed until they finally were forced to do something about it. And the next day after the cleanup, they're all back out there again like nothing happened. Unbelievable. They need to arrest these people, and they should have the option of deporting them, and they can't do it. They can't do it under the current administration. The executive branch is not going to permit for them to send these people back where they came from, which is the only thing that's going to work. They've got to be gotten rid of. Unfortunately, and all the people, there's people that are going to sit there and say, "Oh, that's cruel and that's so unchristian," and all the country was founded on migrants. So yeah, those migrants, and I did a whole video on it actually. Those migrants are not the same ones we have now. The migrants coming here during the Industrial Revolution or whenever, they came here to bust their ass and to be part of the system, not work against it, not rip it off. And they didn't get anything for free. WCM says it's all by design. And oh, it's not Christian. You got to love your neighbor. You tell me who my neighbor is. Don't even get me started. Fluke Man says perhaps New York should bring back the Italian mob. As bad as criminals are, they did keep things in order. Yeah, I know. And Monkey says educate them. I hate that phrase since some will think that as a be-all solution. Educate them in what? Your indoctrination lessons? ? And Nature Nerd says they aren't going to pay these migrants minimum wage anymore. Oh, and there's Dusty. I don't know if anybody saw that. Dusty has joined me. She's in the chair behind me there. Hey, Dusty. You ignoring me? Dusty the feline, keeping me company as I read the news. And you still can't see her. I tried to adjust the camera. Look at this. Come on now. Try to get her into focus. There she is. Dusty, everybody. I know some people really want to see Dusty. That's okay. I like the cats. They're better than people. Seriously. They really are. I got challenged with that. If some of you might recall it when I did the last on the mailbag video. And it's like, people like you would rather help a dog than a person. Yeah. The dog's actually grateful. The dog's actually deserving. The dog's actually innocent. Most people are not. Most people are dirty and shady, and no matter what you do for them, they ain't satisfied. Screw people. And there you go. Gary Smith says, hi, Dusty. Yes, indeed. She's ignoring us, though, Gary. And Scale Diesel says, send them all back and keep them out. Not rewarded them for stupidity. Yeah, and that's my argument. It's been my argument all along in these discussions. It would be cheaper and more efficient to charter them repatriate them, as the operative phrase, and charter flights and send them back where they came from. It's what we used to do. That's why we used to only have 800 encounters a day at the border. Now it's 8,000, roughly. Why is that? Well, ask the Biden administration. They'll explain it to you. But there is a solution. There is a solution, and Los Angeles County has come up with the idea, and it's on the Washington Examiner, has this article. You'll get a kick out of this one if you haven't seen it. Nature Nerd says, did you see the video of the lady complaining about the fancy hotels for migrants? Very ungrateful. They've been very ungrateful. Remember the article we read about a month ago about how the catering services, the food from the catering service, they throw it all away. No one will eat it. It's not good enough. It's like, I thought you walked 3,000 miles to get here in blazing hot sun, and crawled through barbed wire and stuff. You sounding like you're escaping Nazi Germany during 39 or something. And then and then you don't want a free hot meal that the state overpaid for with tax funds. Raccoon says their country doesn't want them back. No, they don't. They don't want them back, but they'll get them if they're chartered over there. Scale Diesel says build back bonehead style. And then Monkey said the person that got mad at you for saving the dog over the human is probably the guy in Texas that ran against the cat for mayor and ended up losing majority 99 to 1%, and something on both sides can agree. Unbelievable. As we jump into this next article, which is going to explain to you how you can do your part in the migrant crisis. The migrant industrial complex, transition coming, and be okay as long as your voice is not interrupted. And Brian says people are really going to challenge that. They know they're awful. Yeah, people know they're awful, but they don't like to admit it, though, do they? We're all saints. Yeah, ask any Christian. We're saints, the saints in the Christian church. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can't wait until you get weighed at the end of days, because it does say in Revelation that you will be held accountable. So watch out. As we jump into the article, Washington Examiner, Los Angeles mayor implores wealthy people to buy housing for homeless. Oh, and that's her. Mayor, that's the mayor, Karen Bass. Karen Bass. At least her hair is not purple or green or something like that. At least she has a normal looking hairstyle, even though she's obviously had Botox. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has a straightforward solution to the city's homelessness crisis: dependence on the humanity and generosity of the private sector. In Bass's State of the City address, the mayor announced the LA for LA initiative, which will lean on the city's wealthy to house over 40,000 homeless people. We are asking the most fortunate Angelinos to participate in this effort with personal private sector, personal private sector and philanthropic funds to help us acquire more properties, lower the cost of capital, and speed up housing, Bass said. Bass said those funds will go to master leasing and purchasing motels, hotels, and already built permanent housing. Translation: no, there's a problem here. Did you catch that? She wants wealthy people to buy housing, but then she changes it to give us money and we'll buy the housing. Did you catch that? The city is hoping that spending capital, which Bass hopes could come from some of the city's residents on the homeless, will ultimately reduce a heavy financial burden of thousands and thousands of fire, paramedic, and police calls. Bass also lamented the opportunity cost of the homeless crisis, a cost that occurs when tourists skip out on LA and employees and employers leave downtown. Darcy Neva, the CEO of West Side Coalition, which represents 80 government, social service, and faith-based agencies in California addressing housing, hunger, and health, told NBC Los Angeles she was impressed by the plan, but that workers need more support and resources to aid the homeless. Translation: pay us more money. That's all that means. Give us more money. Give us more money. We want your money. And we've gotten as far as we can with donations. Just flat out start buying property or give us money to do it. We're giving all they have. We just hope that those who have an abundance of money would contribute to help us tremendously. Oh, God. Seriously, lady. Oh, no. How does she put it? I want to hear her say this. Hold on a second, because I have her audio here. Let's listen to the clip real quick.
After the rescue phase comes the recovery phase. Lessons learned during the rescue phase can be applied. We can think and plan for longer term. The emergency doesn't end. It just enters a different phase.
The emergency doesn't end because none of your programs work. And the different phase is we want more money. This also, and by the way, I was right about the Botox because I don't know if you noticed if you were watching on that clip, only her lower jaw moves. The rest of her face does not move. So definitely a Botox treatment there. Seriously, unbelievable. This also opens the door for your 15-minute birdcage cities. Who are the wealthiest of the wealthy? Well, the billionaires that are buying up huge properties in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and in other parts of California, with purchasing abandoned properties for pennies on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar, and with the idea of demolishing entire city blocks to build their, quote, utopia cities. And this could be a tie-in for that as well. Yep. So there we go. Fluke Man says cats and dogs will never betray, lie, cheat, and steal from you. No. And that's the one thing, too. I've got animals I work with. They've never warmed up to me. But they're not going to pretend to be something different to get anything from me. You know what I mean? I've got a couple back there I've never been able to lay a hand on. You can't touch them. They won't let you near them. But they still come and they still wait patiently. They don't fake anything. Humans fake everything. And number one Marvel fan is here. Glad you could make it. Monkey says at least Satanists are following their beliefs more accurately than modern Christians. Oh, no. And Brian says a lot of times it's the Ned Flanders of the world you have to be aware of. Yeah. Well, because Ned Flanders was legitimate. But most people will act like Ned Flanders, and they're really freaking evil underneath. Nature Nerd says the rich people wouldn't collect much rent in these migrant houses. No, they won't collect any rent. Nature Nerd says property taxes are too high to give people cheap rent. That's why people are homeless and struggling. That's true. And California is notorious for that. They keep raising taxes, and those higher taxes assist in forcing out housing and businesses. And it says, what if a city had a law that if there was a squatter, some of the property taxes would be charged to the squatters, and if they don't pay, they get removed from the house or apartment? I don't know. And Dragon says, after taxing people with high incomes, then adding ULA, and now asking the rich to donate money to this shit show, they keep siphoning money into. You're doing a great job, Karen. And Marvel fan says, did you see the LXC nonsense posted such pricks in that group? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I saw that. And Helda says money is not helping the issue. It's a bottomless pit. And she admitted it actually in that audio clip that I just played. The crisis doesn't end, she said. It just goes through changes. It doesn't end because nothing that you do works. It doesn't end because nothing that you do works. Nothing. None of it works. It's not designed to work. It's designed to be perpetual because that's how these activists and these politicians make money. If you solve a problem, you've got nothing else to do. I mean, seriously. If the problem is solved, they don't need you anymore. And you would think if you were honorable and honest about trying to solve a problem, when that problem was solved, you could say, oh, relief, I did it. I'm proud of myself. That was great. Instead of, oh, well, if I solve this problem, shit, I won't make any money. Joshua says they sometimes think it would be better to be a dog than have human understanding and realize the world that they're living in. Yeah, ignorance is bliss as it goes. Ignorance is bliss. And speaking of, actually, this isn't about ignorance. It is very ignorant, actually, this next article. This is a local article, something you probably have not heard of, but we've talked about it many, many times because every time I come across an article with a BLM activist that is in any type of authority that gets in trouble for stealing from their organization, I'm going to showcase it. You might remember just last week I did the article on that woman in Great Britain who had stolen some 70,000 pounds that they have been able to track so far, and spent it all on restaurants and nail and hair appointments and stuff like that, and that she was arrested. And because they can't track the money, they only charged her or fined her £1 sterling, or $1.26, I think that comes out to. And Megan is there. It says late but here. I thought you were already here, Megan. Did I miss something? Oh, no, I'm thinking of someone else. I'm glad you could make it, Megan. Gary Smith says it's the same as medical charities that always want money for a problem that never seems to get a cure. Exactly. And Monkey says they found out Ohio has squatter rights, but it's brutal, with it being that you had to squat there for 21 years. And if you mess up once, the counter to 21 years restarts. So another BLM activist, and this is a local article, busted for stealing funds, it seems. And get that open. This one is acting up. Hopefully it doesn't act too foolish here. I think I did click the right thing. So waiting for it to come up. The dust. Know if you hear any audio lag. SBTV2 Atlanta article. Former Atlanta BLM activist accused of stealing from donors to fund a lavish lifestyle is found guilty. And you can see that, for those of you who can see the picture of him here, he is obviously mixed. I make that point for a reason. He's one of those mixed types that's so light he actually has red hair. And Scale said it froze. Did the sound get interrupted? And 115 says lagging and froze bad. Okay. I'm all right now though, right? Hopefully. Hopefully. Anyways, getting into the article. It says former Atlanta activist accused of creating bogus Black Lives Matter group and to steal $500,000 to fund a lavish lifestyle has been found guilty on wire fraud charges. Investigation by the FBI concluded that Sir Major Page, spelled MEA or Maejor, also known as Conyers Page, had created a Facebook page called Black Lives Matter of Greater Atlanta and had been soliciting money through the page through a GoFundMe account. Page allegedly uses money through his Black Lives Matter nonprofit in Ohio, as well as for personal purchases. So I guess he's affiliated with Black Lives Matter in Ohio, but he made a fake page in Atlanta and misappropriated $500,000. Throughout the week-long trial, the jury heard about the dual sides of Page. Several witnesses testified about the social justice work he was trying to accomplish in the wake of the killing of Floyd, but then was presented with the main other witnesses who said was all about using the money he raised to fund his lavish lifestyle. Following Floyd's death, Page used Black Lives Matter of Greater Atlanta organization and netted nearly $500,000 in donations through the organization's Facebook fundraising portal, Toledo Blade reported. The charity, however, has lost its federal tax-exempt status, and its Georgia incorporation has been canceled, the news says. After Page left Atlanta, Ohio, Frequency, Ohio, and even bought a home under the charity's name, and that the cost of the home was $100,000. Incredible. And here I am, If I do a GoFundMe, I'm lucky if I can get 100. Oh no. 500,000 on a GoFundMe for a fake BLM charity, a guy from the BLM who made a fake BLM charity in Atlanta, but he's from Ohio. I don't know if I'm clear on whether or not he's from Ohio or not, because I guess he came from Ohio to Atlanta, set up the Atlanta-based charity. I wonder if he was scamming money in Ohio also. Heidi said the sound was wonky some. Okay. And Carrick is here. Glad you could make it. And 115 says they have passed by the BLM headquarters in Atlanta. It was a burned out, spray painted, derelict building. And Joshua says someone misusing charity funds. I have a hard time believing that. I know, because usually they're so freaking honest, aren't they? Aren't they so honest and wholesome? So living a lavish lifestyle with donations. Hey, maybe I should have thought of that. Oh, BLM, and I'll make $500,000 in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, you try to do anything honest in a GoFundMe, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. I need surgery for my grandma. Screw your grandmother. The hell with her. BLM, woo! Yeah, rake in the money. Rake in the money. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing where people's priorities lie. It's like the article we read yesterday about Bragg, in the district attorney who indicted Trump for the Stormy Daniels trial. And right after the indictment, picks up nearly $1 million in donations from various unions. Very shady. Very shady. He wouldn't have got that money if he didn't do that to Trump. And Monkey says housing ain't too bad in Ohio, so he literally had extra change. And then Nature Nerd says our donations through GoFundMe taxes the same as income. No, you don't get taxed on a donation. If someone gives you money, it can't be taxed. If they donate it to you, or if they gift it to you, if you receive money as a gift, it can't be. It's not taxable in that regard. That's why, like on the PayPal there, it says friends and family, please. I have the PayPal link for donations. If you send money through that PayPal link, it has two functions: goods and services, friends and family. If you send it goods and services, it's taxable. You'll get a W-2 at the end of the year. If you send it friends and family, because it's a gift, it can't be taxed. And so Facebook, not Facebook, so PayPal ignores it when you make that kind of a donation. So yeah, when you make a gift donation, it's not subject to tax. So yeah, he got that money clean. GoFundMe, there's a small fee. There's a very small fee associated with transfers. But otherwise, yeah, he got away with almost all of that money. He got away with almost all of it. Must be nice. It must be nice. Must be nice to be shady and do whatever the hell you want. Although he didn't get away with it. He did not get away with it. He got caught up. He wasn't important enough to protect. That's what it is. Man wasn't important enough to protect, so he got the bus. Now he's in jail. Simple. And then Brian there, before we get ready, I'll show you some more corruption here in a moment. Brian says liberals say Black Lives Matter is about equality when the slogan means only Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I know. It's all about equality for us. My equality, not yours. You don't count, Brian. Go stand in the corner. talk, and this is a speaking of Square article. State lawmaker under federal investigation reacts to Dalton officials being charged because now people associated with her are under investigation. It just keeps getting better. And there's Henyard being inaugurated, one of the biggest mistakes that community ever made. It says a state legislator responding Wednesday to news of Dalton Village officials being investigated for possible corruption and one being charged with fraud said it's up to authorities to investigate the alleged crimes. Tiffany Henyard, or Henyard, I've heard it pronounced both ways, mayor of Dalton, is accused of misconduct, corruption, sexual harassment, and retaliation against opponents by some in her village. Everyone in that community. You should see the protests out in front of the town hall when she's there. There's hundreds of people out there with picket signs screaming. Separately, a senior administrator for the village, Keith Douglas Freeman of Orland Park, has been charged with federal bankruptcy fraud. State Representative Thaddeus Jones, Democrat of Calumet City, who is also the mayor of Calumet City, was asked to react to the Henyard scandal and Freeman's charges. Calumet City is 10 minutes west of Dalton, and Jones's House district includes the village of Dalton. Quote, I heard Tiffany Henyard is down here in Springfield, so ask her that question. I'll just say leave it. Let's leave this to the authorities to investigate, Jones told the Center Square. And that's a good point. Why are you asking me? It's not my problem. I'm not the mayor of that district. Henyard is accused of weaponizing police in what critics say is retaliatory business raids and spending taxpayer money on luxury trips. That's already been proven, but she has not been taken up on charges yet because when the city council voted to move against her, she vetoed their vote. She has the power to veto their decision. Now she's facing investigation by the Dalton trustees as well as the FBI. The investigation conducted by the trustees is being spearheaded by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. We talked about that. That's a huge mistake. Lori Lightfoot is a failure. She's a professional failure in politics, and she's being paid $400 per hour for this investigation. Think about how much that is. If she claims to put in a 10-hour day, that's $4,000 a day. 5 days a week is $20,000 a week from a community that's already hemorrhaging money, that's already in the red because Henyard has misappropriated funds. They were in the black before they hired her. The city had a lot of extra money in its coffers for emergency funding, whatever. Now they're shut down. They've got no money, and vendors have not been paid. It says attempts by the Center Square were made to find Henyard, but she couldn't be located for comment. The Center Square requested comment, and Henyard's office did not respond. I bet you they won't either. Freeman was the top aide to the Dalton mayor, was indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges Tuesday. So yeah, big surprise. Her top aide gets indicted for fraud. A federal Freeman failed to report income from the village of Dalton. Freeman also allegedly hid his income during bankruptcy proceedings. Jones did not say if he had heard from constituents about concerns of corruption being exhibited by municipal officers in the district. So big surprise. And we're going to keep hearing about Henyard again and again and again because it's not going away. And this is something that should have already been shut down. She should have already been carted away. And they just can't shake it off. Brian says liberals say Black Lives Matter is about equality. Oh, I read that already. Sorry. He also says that's a weekly salary for me. Yeah. What, 400 or 4,000? I mean, think about it. That's 4,000 a day. That's 3,200, 8 to 10 hours a day, $3,200 to $4,000 a day, $20,000 a week. $80,000 to $100,000 per month. That's more than she was making as the freaking mayor of Chicago. And Brian says 400. That's okay, Brian. That's more than she was making as mayor. That's, oh my God. To investigate. And how's that investigation been going? We read that article a couple of weeks back. Right, Dusty? Right, Dusty? Dusty's ignoring me. I can see her peeking at me. She's awake. She's looking at me, but she's not going to respond. That's more than she was making as mayor and hasn't accomplished anything yet, because haven't heard anything about it since she was hired as the special investigator by what is essentially a bankrupt community. They have no more money. This is why Henyard is being investigated in the first place. They have no more money. They went from being millions in surplus to being in debt and not being able to pay city vendors. And Brian says it pays for gas, monthly expenses, and merchandise at least. Nothing wrong with that, Brian. Nothing wrong with that. If it's an honest living, you can't knock it. Hey, sometimes if you can't knock it if it's a dishonest living, it depends on what it is, without getting too far into that. And Fluke Man says plus monthly bonuses, Christmas company car, bonuses and stocks and shares. I don't know if she's getting any of that extra stuff, but hell, pay me $400 an hour. I'll investigate her. I'll have it wrapped up in a week. I won't drag it out for a year or two. And then eventually they'll probably start a committee. Yes, we need to have a committee to investigate her. It's already been investigated over and over again. Are you going to do anything about it or not? Well, it doesn't look like they are. Doesn't look like they're going to get far. Meanwhile, Henyard is probably the most embarrassing mayor in the country. She gets lots of attention, lots of negative attention in the media. The media eats it up too. Because look at her. She's a three-ring circus. And this is one of the things that I say. People, human beings, are really good at setting the bar low and then crawling under it. They don't want to set the bar high and challenge people to jump over it. They want to set it low and challenge people to crawl under it. Start digging. Start digging. How low can you go? Death row, what a brother know. Once again, back is the incredible. Who remembers that one? Who remembers that one? That's going way back. That's going back to the early 90s. But, you know, there's more to come. There is more to come. I have some more interesting articles to go, but we'll probably save that for tomorrow. Gary Smith says, what do you expect when you elect a narcissist? Well, she clicked the boxes. She was black and female, and that was enough. Oh, look, we're so diverse. We are so diverse. Look at our community. We hired a black female mayor. We're making history. It's historic. It's historic. How's that worked out for you? I'm sure you could have found a black female person that was going to do the job. Instead, you went for this, and look what happened. Look what happened. And the warden says maybe she's going to do the investigation in her sea virus costume. Yeah, she's going to dress like a leprechaun. She's going to dress like a leprechaun. That's what's going to happen. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciated. I thank you. Dusty thanks you. You grateful, Dusty? Dusty's not listening to me. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and that is at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting on both channels, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon, if anybody ever wanted to check that out. As well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if anybody wants to join me there. And special thanks again to Brian for making a donation to the channel. Always appreciated, always helpful. And thanks to everyone else who was able to join us here today in the live portion and join in the discussion. So with that, I will go ahead and sign off. Hope you got something out of the conversation, and we will do